Hi there everybody, it's Rarity here from inkybutterfly.com. Thank you for joining me today for another card making tutorial, and we're going to be making this card for you today. We're going to be using the colour and contour stamp set and the coordinating scalloped contour dies, and the sort of punch sentiment there is going to be from this set called Handmade Wishes. This is in the mini catalogue, and this has this really cute shape, but something a bit different that coordinates with a punch, so you can actually purchase those together as a bundle from the current mini catalogues. That's called Handmade Wishes. Colour and contour is in the annual catalogue, as are the coordinating dies. Okay, so you'll find those in there. Remember, all the links will be in the description directly to those in my Stampin' Up store. So please do pop along, have a closer look if you would like. So have done a little bit of prep ahead of time. So I've already die cut this largest scalloped frame here, okay, to sort of build our image on. So we've already got that in place there. And I've already cut a panel that's going to sit inside that. So I roughly measured the inside of that, and of course it was all sort of a bit of a funny measurement, but because we're going to pop it up, it's not going to make too much of a difference. So I ended up cutting it 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and that fits pretty well in there, leaving a bit of a border. All right, so it's near enough, and for what we're doing, you're not going to notice anyway. If you're popping it up, it's not going to be as noticeable anyway. So this is the bit that we're going to stamp on, this little portion. We'll leave this to one side just for the moment. There's a bit of scrap there for the sentiment as well, so we'll just pop the sample card to one side just for a moment. I think I might just get the sentiment stamped. I'm going to use basic grey instead of black or anything else for the stamping today. So the stamp set is a photopolymer set, so just some light tapping on there, you'll be able to see very clearly that the ink has covered. So we'll just get that stamped down. So straight down, hold it for a couple of seconds, firm and even pressure, and lift straight up. So that's ready to punch out in a sec. I have my stamping chamois there next to me so that I can wipe my stamps off as I go. Just going to grab myself a piece of scrap paper. This is sort of mini grid paper, so I use it and use it and use it until it's kind of beyond use, really. And I'm going to take the outline die, if you like, stamp rather, there to do some stamping over the this cardstock now. Okay, so the reason for cutting a separate panel, I'm going to twist that so I just get a slightly different area of the stamp each time I re-ink it. So just popping those in, started from the middle and spreading outwards, and then you don't end up with an awkward thing in the middle that you can't cover up. Okay, and then we're just going to use edges here just to make it look full. So the panel is, I'm basically using a panel so I don't end up with stamping on the scalloped details of the die cut. That was the main reason for doing it like this, and also I wanted that popped up look. So there we go, that's our outlines done. So rather than using, this was So Saffron, by the way, that I use for these flowers, I'm going to pull in some Highland Heather. So there's a coordinating sort of fill-in stamp, if you like. It's worthwhile just taking a moment just to get to know the stamp and where it lines up. Although I will say that when it gets to the edgy bits, I don't even bother trying to line it up. I just do it on the ones that where it might look kind of obvious. I look for this double petal here and this sort of square petal that are sort of opposite each other, and then there's like this double petal here, and this blobby one is the square petal. So that's what I aim for on this one. You could totally put a little bit of permanent marker onto the stamp to give you an indication of where that is, if you wanted to. So this one is there-ish. As I say, I'm not worried if it misses the lines. The whole point is that it's just a little bit sketchy, and like round here I'm not even going to bother even trying. I'm just going to go for it. It's all just going to add to the effect. That one we'll try and get something like right. Like I say, we just want to fill in the cardstock, just like so. So it's not supposed to match perfectly anyway, so it all contributes to that. I'm just going to leave that ink pad there just for a sec. Just to fill in the centres a bit, I decided just to opt for pulling in a little bit of the Sahara sand marker and just sort of scribbling a bit in there. It just felt like the centres were a little bit naked to me without some colour, and that's literally all I'm going to do. Just a bit of a squiggle in there just to sort of break that up a little bit. So that bit is done, okay, and ready to mount onto our scalloped piece in a moment. Sentiment wise, now I want to just put the frame around that, which I'm going to do in the Highland Heather ink, and again just some light tapping around there, and I'm going to use this the other way because I can. I do like the diamond orientation, so I'm just taking my time just lining that up there. Hope you're not getting too much glare off the block actually. Okay, just to make sure that that's even in the middle and around that sentiment. So just because the punch is sort of designed to go in a sort of diamond orientation doesn't mean to say we can't use it in another way, okay? So it's going to be tricky to line that up with this sort of excess here. So what I'm going to do is just take some scissors and just sort of take off some excess there just to help me get the punch lined up where it needs to be. Might need to take some more, but it's fine. Oh no, that's it, got it. So you're still lining it up in exactly the same way, you just got your stamp oriented differently. That is all. Your sentiment stamp, I should say. Okay. Voila. So of course, if you prefer to keep it as the diamond orientation, of course you can. So that's ultimately going to go onto the card with some dimensional, so we may as well bring in those now. I don't think we need our scrap paper. Don't forget you can use all the little edgy bits around your spent sheet of dimensionals. Get everything you can out of them. Get some more bang for your buck. So just because you get 100 on a sheet, but you probably end up with I usually cut these apart separately, so there's another 4, 8, you know what I mean? So you are getting a little bit more than 100 on a sheet if you're using it like that. Before we put this panel onto the scalloped die cut, we want to add some ribbon. Just pop that. Oh, actually, I might need those on there. Okay, so again, we're going to pull in the seam binding ribbon. This is the white seam binding ribbon. It's quite thin, but it just adds a little bit of a softness to the card and a bit of texture. On this one, I actually coloured it with a light crumb cake marker just to tone it in with the rest of the card. So we could colour this with something, but I think it might detract a little bit from the rest of the image. So I think on this card we're going to leave it white, but of course you can colour ribbon with your Stampin' White markers or your alcohol markers. So that would be one of these ones. This is your water-based marker, or one of the square ones. I'm just picking random ones, which is an alcohol marker. The advantage of using an alcohol marker, I'm looking for tape, there it is. Alcohol markers will dry very quickly, so you don't need to wait for them to dry. But if water-based markers is all you've got, the Stampin' Up markers, then do that, but set it to the side to make sure it's dry before adding it to your card. So we're just going to wrap that round on there, and then we can grab some dimensionals. I am going to go to my full sheet though for this, and I'm going to put more on here than I would do normally, just because I want it to be nice and sturdy, and you'll see later I want a little bit more rigidity in this than I would do normally. So that's that. I'll just quickly whip off these papers. These are really easy to get off compared to other brands that I've used. Easy peasy. Some people use their take your pick tool that way up to do that. If you're uncertain about your positioning when you've got dimensionals on the back, put some wet glue on the back. It helps you with the positioning. So we've got that layered up with a bit of dimension. All right, okay, beautiful, super duper duper. And then we can pop our sentiment on. Just going to straddle across that ribbon there, and then we can tie a quick bow, make bunny ears. This is what I call slippy ribbon, so sometimes you have to, if you've got any sticky on your fingers, this ribbon doesn't like that either. So like I say, it's just go gentle with it, get that knot tightened, but once that knot's tight, it's really tight because it's so fine. And of course we want a trusty glue dot to stick that down. The knot is quite small, so you might want to just sort of make sure that you can't see that glue dot peeking out. And I know the tails are really long, but I like to cut the tails once I've got it in position and I know how long I want them to be. So we'll do that for now, preferably something like even. Right, so we haven't attached it to a card base yet, so I've brought in a card base which is cut and scored in exactly the same way, but I've also scored across the front just shy of 3 inches because we're going to make this into an easel card. Okay, and I thought it would look really pretty because this would then stand out on the mantelpiece when it's propped up, and you'll be able to see that lovely scalloped edge. Okay, so that was my thinking on that. So when we put this on the card front, we need to make sure we're only putting glue on the bottom half. Okay, so that's just what we need to do there. And you know, generally I do use tape dispenser, but for this I'm going to use wet glue, just because it's going to give me, oops, let's not go too mad, just a moment or two just to make sure it's in the right place. See, getting a mess with it, you see, because I'm just too heavy-handed with it. That's what it is. So it gives me an opportunity just to make sure that I've got that where I want it. The dies themselves are sized, you see, for American A2s, because they use 8.5 by 11 cardstock, so their quarter sheets are slightly shorter and fatter than ours. So hopefully that's straight-ish, and then that will open up like so. That's hard to see on camera because you're above me, but you see where I'm going with that. All right, and I think that looks pretty. Okay, so what we do need though is something to stop that from dropping down. Okay, so we need a stopper for that. So I thought we could use this die in the set rather than pulling out anything different, to almost create like a faux ribbon, like I did on my video on Saturday, I want to say, because I think it was for the blog hop that I did. So I think it was Saturday's video. So I'm going to pop that die along the edge of there, sort of roughly straight. I'm going to pop that through the die cut machine. And that should fall away. Excellent. And peel that away gently, because of course, even though it's low tack tape, the pressure of course will really make it stick. And then we've got to decide how wide we want that ribbon to be. So we can position this die now to create our stopper. That looks kind of totally eyeballing it. That looks about right. Let's whack that through. Just these plates have gone a bit wonky on me, so let me just line those back up. Send that through. Always tend to go forwards and then backwards. It's just kind of a habit, I think, from other brands that I've used in the past, where you often needed to make 2 passes to get them to cut. Okay, so that is going to be our card stopper, which we're going to pop up onto some dimensionals. Okay, so if I just open that flat. Okay, so again, I want it to be central on the card. Okay, so looks like we've got 4 convenient dimensional spots there. So you want it raised up so that it catches the card front. So again, if you want to, if I show you, actually, you've seen me do this before, if you've watched the videos before, if you just put a little spot of glue on one side of your dimensional there, it will just give you a moment or two just to make sure you've got it where you want it. Don't want it too close to the bottom, because that will affect the angle that it creates when it's propped up. That's perfect. Right, cool. So that's fine. We'll just press that into place, and then we just need to cut off those excess pieces. So if you trim it beforehand, you just run a risk that you're going to cut it just ever so slightly too short. Ooh. Get that the right way around. So that is it. On this one, I did add some splatter to the background, totally optional if you wanted to add that as a little bit more of a grungy kind of effect, but I kept this one a bit more clean, if you like. You could of course embellish this stopper portion as well, if you wanted to. I think it would have looked nice on a coloured card base too. So maybe if the Highland Heather was there, that would pick out the scallops on the bottom. And maybe use Highland Heather, and then the white would pop on the stopper portion as well. All right. So that's the two versions of those cards, both as a regular, just open straight card, or as an easel. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that and you've had some ideas on what you can do there. I'll just zoom out a little bit, probably better. Okay, just to see that. Really happy with how that's turned out. Okay, as I say, all the supplies and stuff will be listed and linked in the description, so take a look there. Really glad you were able to join me today. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.